Okay, it looks like we're live.
Yes, you know how we know it says live in the upper right-hand corner with a big 0 next to it, which means 0 viewers.
We've been.
Hi, everybody. Hey, everybody.
Yeah,
What's going on? Hi, Brian. How you doing, buddy? Let's get a little small talk going on before we get into leadership and laughs. How's everything going in the DEN?
Denver, Colorado.
Denver.
Today, Pete, is a balmy 29 degrees.
Oof.
It's clear though. We took the puppy out on a walk for lunch today, and it was nice and sunny. But Colorado's weird. You're growing up in Florida. When it gets cold, I mean it's cold no matter what.
Yeah.
And here it'll say it's 29 degrees, but it feels more like in the 50s to me.
See, I believe that because I was there on a ski trip a few weeks ago, and when we were all bundled up. Everybody's bundled up because we got all this stuff on. But at night, when we go out for dinner and it was like 23 degrees, we still had on like our long underwear, jeans, and a jacket. And I'm like, well, I don't feel that cold now. I guess you just acclimate to it, huh? You just get used to it.
They say it has something to do with the humidity.
Or the lack thereof, perhaps.
Correct.
Gotcha.
My understanding is Birmingham is about 53 today.
Yes, it is. It's starting to get cold. Me and Brian talked earlier. We had some tornadoes up here a couple nights ago. So we've been reliving the stress of the tornadoes that we had a few years ago and really hit a city bad. I got a coworker that lost his house, and young high school kid, 9th grade, lost his life. A couple guys got really injured. So tornado. I don't think you have tornado season in Colorado, but it was really bad up here. But this is leadership and laughs, not leadership and bring me down. So we'll talk about some other stuff. If you're just joining us on LinkedIn Live or Facebook Live, we are glad to have you. You can comment along. In fact, I've got a graphic here. I wonder if the graphic stays up while we play the opening theme song. Look, I put a new graphic that says, please join the show by commenting on Facebook or LinkedIn during the show. And if you're listening on the recorded podcast in your car the next day, this is going to be just as much fun for you, hopefully, except you can't see any of the witty pictures that Brian has created. All right. You ready to get rocking, buddy?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's get going. You were so cool because you go, let's do it. And you expected me to hit the button, and I can't find. Oh, here it is. Do it again.
Let's do it.
Hey,
here everybody.
There we are. Hi, everybody. We're so glad to be here. Listen, Brian and I are old buddies from Disney. We like to take about 1 hour every week. Brian, we say we try to make it the best hour of their week. And we like to do a little live stream. Then we record it for the podcast and we put it on social media and all that. But let's take an hour and talk about things that don't divide us. Let's not talk about, we're going to talk about a little. We'll get to that in just a moment. How's that for a teaser? Let's not talk about crazy things. Let's talk about leadership, how we can apply lessons to our life. Let's have some laughs along the way and talk about how just to be good people and good leaders. Is that a pretty good summary, buddy, of what we're trying to do?
Summary.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we're about to do.
We're just two regular Joes.
To do.
Named Pete and Brian. So Brian always starts us off with this little concept called leading off with good stories. So he's got his own theme song. Let's take a look. Leading off with Brian with the good news of the day. Get us started. I need some good news today. I've had kind of a bad day. What do you got for us?
Well, these are just we like to focus on some of the stories that could be tangentially related to leadership, but some good stories in the news that maybe aren't as hard hitting and heavy as what we see every single day. So we'll lead off today with a trip to Hong Kong. Let's go to Hong Kong, Pete.
I love Hong Kong. There's a Hong Kong Disneyland there.
There is.
Only reason I would go. So
So if you are a resident of Hong Kong, if you're watching us from there, then you could have recently seen a disabled athlete named his name is Lai Chi Wai. Lai Chi Wai.
Well done.
What he did, here he is. He strapped himself into his wheelchair and climbed up one of the city's towering skyscrapers, glass-paned skyscrapers. It took him more than 10 hours, but he managed to pull himself up about 820 feet in the air in an effort to raise money for spinal cord patients.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, in fact, this one event raised nearly $700,000 in donations. He says he was quite scared. He says, climbing up a mountain, I can hold on to rocks or little holes, but with all that glass, all I can really rely on is the rope that I'm hanging off.
And that's the picture we're seeing right here. Is he's literally strapped to his wheelchair, and there are these two cables or ropes going down the side of a huge building, and is he rappelling down or is he rappelling up, or what is he doing?
He's climbing up in this.
Oh my word!
And
wow.
He's 37 years old. He was left paralyzed from the waist down after a car accident about 10 years ago. But before that, he had been crowned the Asia champion 4 times for rock climbing, and at one point had been ranked 8th globally.
Wow.
So he says, some people don't really understand the difficulties that disabled people face. And he says, some people think that we are always weak. We need help. We need assistance. Right. We need people's pity. But he says, in fact, I want to tell everyone it doesn't have to be like that. If a disabled person can shine, then they can at the same time bring about opportunity and hope and bring about light, and they don't have to be viewed as weak.
Amen to that, brother. We do a disability awareness training where I work, and we have an outside organization, the Alabama Department of Rehabilitative Services, comes in and facilitates it, a couple times a year for people who are interested, who work with or have customers or who have a disability. That's one of the first things they say is stop treating disabled people like they have a disability, like they need your pity, they just are people who just, may not be able to function some of the things that you do. And so when he said he didn't want any pity, that I remember that kind of rings a bell. And I think the leadership lesson here is just that, we have to be careful when we start thinking about how bad everything is in our lives. And I can't do this and I can't do that. Again, from a leadership perspective, it's not what you can't do. It's what you can do. And I like what he did here to try to do that. Great story. By the way, did you ever do that thing in PE and a kid where you had to get a rope in the gym and try and get the rope up to the top and hit the bell and stuff? Did they have that when
you climb the rope?
Yeah, climb the rope.
Yeah, we have to do that. I never once was able to do that.
Oh no. No. All I did was swing on it. I could hold it and swing, but to get the next one up, I didn't have the upper body strength. So I can't imagine pulling yourself and your wheelchair up like that. Good for him. And he's raised a lot of money. That's great. All right, let's get to a good news story. We said we're not going to cover politics, but Brian and I have made an exception today. And I think you know where we're going. Bernie's mittens equals internet smitten.
Yeah, this next one is it's loosely related to politics, but it's not
right.
So most of us watching this or listening to this are aware that last week during the presidential inauguration, photographers captured an image of Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont that blew up all over the internet in countless satirical memes. And at the center of this viral sensation, there it is. There's the picture of him.
That's me pointing at Bernie.
Trump sitting in his folding chair with his jacket and his mittens. And, and the mittens are what's at the center of this whole viral sensation that's been, the mittens themselves are fashioned out of repurposed wool and fleece that was spun from recycled plastic. So it turns out the mittens, people just were so in the weeds about these mittens this past week, and people are photoshopping Bernie into all kinds of different like, oh, yep, here he is joining the cast of Friends in the opening scene. It becomes so funny, and reporters were asking Sanders, like, are you offended by this? And he's like, no, I'm not offended. That's my Bernie Sanders. And he says, we're gonna kind of lean into it and try to raise some money for charity around it. So
yeah.
I thought the mittens were made and given to Sanders several years ago this isn't new. He's had these for a few years. They were made by a school teacher from Vermont named Jen Ellis. And in the past week, poor Mrs. Ellis, she's been inundated with requests from people who want to buy a pair of her mittens. But she's busy being
oops,
can't fulfill the thousands of requests she's getting. But Bernie Sanders called her and asked her to make a few more pairs that are going to be auctioned off for Vermont charities, and that's what we're looking at here.
Those are them right there.
I liked it because she said she's actually receiving encouragement to focus on mittens full time, but she said, I don't know how long that can last. Being a teacher already brings her a tremendous amount of joy, she said, and she thinks that that's the greatest symbol of success.
One of the greatest. There's so many memes, and they just made me smile. And if you're from overseas and don't know what we're talking about, just Google Bernie Sanders gloves, mittens, and you'll see a bunch of things. He's a former presidential candidate, longtime Vermont senator. But one of the ones said it was just words on a Facebook post. You can do words over color, and it said, "Me, the country is divided. Nothing can ever bring us together. We're way too disparate on everything. Bernie, hold my beer and pass me my mittens."
Yeah,
because it seemed to have brought everybody together. I mean, it's funny.
It did. Politics aside, everybody just kind of latched onto it and thought it was just kind of a funny. I mean, he looks like that grumpy cat, right? Before this, there was a whole bunch of memes where Bernie Sanders was next to Grumpy Cat, and they're just kind of. And I love it when Larry David plays him on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
It's always fun.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, one of our friends, KP, put in. She was talking about the man with the disability in the wheelchair. She says, "I get the psychology of it. There's a why he is motivated to do something so profound, proving it to himself or showing others he's never giving up. As a person with a lifelong disability, I relate to this in many ways." So absolutely, showing to yourself, showing to others what you can do. I know KP still runs and does marathons and things like that, and it's just I think that's an important leadership lesson for all of us, even without a disability, but especially if you have a disability. So outstanding point, KP. All right, Brian, you got one more for us?
Sure.
Go ahead.
What? Yeah. This one really hits home for me. It's also teaching related. Hits home for me because I come from a family of dedicated music teachers. So we're going to meet Sergeant Jacob Kohut.
Well, maybe we are.
He was one of the thousands of National Guard troops. There's Sergeant Kohut there. One of the thousands of National Guard troops that were deployed to the Capitol this month. And Sergeant Kohut, each morning, he took a break for a few hours in order to, be a hero elsewhere. So turns out he's also a music teacher and a band director at two different Virginia schools, an elementary school and a middle school.
Okay.
What he would do is he would start his day early and basically teach his students online in camo, in his fatigues, and he would teach them online during his breaks. So
wow.
Yeah, in one photo we can see him teaching a class through video conference, and he's actually holding a flute. There he is, holding a flute.
Is that right there? Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
And he's sitting in the back of a military vehicle. So this kind of also went viral, made the news. He says it's important to continue teaching his students while carrying out his guard duties due to the challenges of the digital learning environment. So it's been difficult all year being virtual and trying to do music. And he says, if I can be there for the kids, even though I'm down here, then it's a no-brainer. That's what I'm going to do, even if I'm tired.
See, I love stories like that. We talk a lot about first responders and people on the front lines, and the nurses and the doctors and the police and the fire. They need their credit, but by all means, teachers right now and what they're doing with COVID and what this gentleman's doing while in the National Guard is an inspiration. It's an inspiration to all of us, and I bet you his kids just look up to him and think he's the bee's knees, if you will.
I'm sure they do. He says it's an honor to go ahead and serve in both capacities whenever it's possible. So his quote was, "I'm a soldier for the Constitution, but I'm also a soldier for music education. And I do both with a full heart."
Well done. Thumbs up to that. Hearties, faces, all that kind of stuff. Man. All right. And you know what, though? This is the first week, like in 4 weeks, you haven't had a story on how some 5-year-old child invented the internet or gave away 1 million pizzas or something. But they're coming back, baby. I'm sure.
They're coming back.
Yeah. Good stories. Gloria says that's awesome. Great example of a super dedicated teacher. Yep. We all got a soft spot.
Gloria was a super dedicated teacher for decades as a music teacher and a band director.
She feels the passion. Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Brian. Let's get to our. We're going to do an article of the week. How about that? Stay tuned.
All right.
The Leadership and Laughs article of the week, Brian. Get excited. We like to change up every now and then and do a few different things. And today's article is from a gentleman named Marcel Schwantes. That's fun to say. Okay. Marcel Schwantes, who wrote an article for Inc. magazine, Inc.com, but also some other areas about the 7 signs to instantly identify someone with a bad leadership style.
Oh.
So are you tracking with me, Brian? We're not talking about good leadership traits. These are not things you want to emulate.
No.
This would be bad leadership styles.
More, they did what?
Correct. Yeah, we're good. Not, wow, good for you, but they did what? I want to make sure that I'm not oversimplifying this, but are you tracking with me?
Yes.
Okay. So summarize what I just said there. Is it good or bad? What?
We're going to look at some of the ways that you can identify a bad leadership trait in your leader.
Right. Again, not okay. I'm going to stop. So not good, but bad. Okay. So here we go. If you're doing these, stop. You're an idiot. All right. Number 1, neglecting the career growth of employees. Mm-hmm. Now, again, this article was written last December around the 20th. So it's during the pandemic. But I think a lot of these things apply whether we're leading remote employees, people in person, COVID related, whatever. He says, according to a new study from online scheduling platform Doodle, 49% of employees feel like they don't getting enough training, they're not getting enough coaching, and they're not getting enough mentoring to advance their careers. We're not playing over under, but would you think that 50% of employees think that I'm not getting the career development, the mentorship, the training that I need?
I would say over, yes.
Yeah. So he's got it about 50%. So again, as a leader, Brian, as a manager, I know it's hard right now. In my department, especially, the first thing we always think of are professional memberships and conferences. So if I want to give you career growth and all of that, I'm going to send you to a conference to learn. I'm going to let you be part of a profession. There's no money for that. We had all of our money cut this year. So we're going to have to find other more creative ways to make sure, whether it's cross-training, whether it's shadowing, whether it's getting a mentor, whether it's cross-utilization that we talked about all the time at Disney, where you go do different things just to, again, make them feel like their careers are not stalling. So I'm sure a lot of folks feel like with COVID, their careers are stalling right now. So that was number 1. Number 2, let's talk about respect. Gosh, I should have had a sound effect for this. You got a sound effect? Let's talk about respect. Let's talk about respect. And again, there's a funny stat here, Brian, that's going to make even you giggle. So in a recent poll by Resume Lab on what makes someone a terrible manager, it was found that an alarming 72% of employees were treated in a rude or disrespectful manner by their boss, and 90% didn't like it. So 72% are being mistreated and disrespected, and of those, 90% goes, and by the way, I don't like that. So there's 10% that are going,
saying, I'm okay with that.
come to the red room. Yeah. So there 10% are okay. But that's alarming. 70, almost 3/4 of employees are saying that they're not treated fairly. Their boss is toxic. They're being rude. They're being disrespectful. And this is an easy thing that all of us can fix, right? I mean, how easy is it to show someone respect?
Well, I guess, I would think common sense says it's easy to, all you have to do is kind of think about it and be respectful, but apparently that's not common sense.
Yeah, it's not common sense at all. Going back to point one about career development, how do you define career growth, Brian? Some may mean it means a promotion and more money, and some just mean development and feedback. So again, what does career growth look like? Are you a ladder or a lattice work? Do you have to go up or can you go laterally? It's kind of interesting. KP makes a good point there. Let's go number 3. Let's see. Number 3, treating people like worker bees. Here's what the author says. He says, many workers in a crisis are forced to serve the wishes of a stressed out, top-down hierarchy in order to drive the bottom line and make shareholders happy. There's typically little regard for these employees' happiness or well-being, which is the opposite of what you want these days. Consequently, people's personal lives and family lives are sacrificed for the job, and burnout and stress and turnover happen. Now, here's my take on this. I think you can get away with this during a crisis for a short amount of time. I think when there's a big change initiative, when there's a crisis, if you go to people and say, I need all hands on deck, there's stuff happening right now. We can't fill these positions. We still have customers. We're trying to save our jobs. I'm sorry you have to miss your son's baseball game tonight, his little league game, but this is for the good. I think in short bursts, that's okay.
As long as the leader is saying that from the front lines and not from their child's baseball game.
Well said, my friend.
Or
well said.
Eating from their yacht.
Yes. You all stay late. I've got things to do. But yes, if you just start taking advantage of people right now, you are going to that's kind of a bad trait. Here's a general one that he mentions: failing to put people first is number 4. And this is, I'll take you back to, thank you. See, I knew you had a pair. Gosh, don't we look smart now? And if you listen to the podcast, you can't see this, but we are 2 balding men with reading glasses who couldn't look better. I'm serious. I mean, we look good.
Yeah, these are actually graduated bifocals.
Yeah.
You
look great. Yeah. My bald head just set off this little light over my head. So I feel like it's
good idea.
All right. When we worked at the Magic, and when we didn't work at the Magic, and there was a time that the Magic Kingdom had a slogan at Walt Disney World, and it was a cast first community. And cast members, the name of the employees. And what they were saying was, we'll put our cast members first before the guests, which is kind of an interesting conundrum to get into when you're a leader. Here where I work in the city of Birmingham, they've got a mission statement that says putting people first. So again, we do this whole thing. We put the HR slogans out there. We do all that and say, we're a people first community. We're a people first organization. Put people first. Well, not every person can be first. But I think what he's saying here is that when you take care of your people, they'll take care of your customers and the rest will fall in line. So if you say your customers are always right, employees deal with it, I think you're going to fall apart. I think you really have to focus on the well-being right now of your employees. Agree or disagree on that?
Totally.
Yeah.
Give you a bell.
Thanks, buddy. Let's go. We got a couple more left on here. Let's see. Banners. Number 5, inability to communicate well. The thing, this particular one is a statement when looked at a growth perspective, and depending on the amount of employees, can communicate a hypocritical yet dysfunctional, overcomplicated message on a simplistic terms only if you get to the root of the issue that we're trying to talk about here. I mean, does that make sense?
That was a lot of big words, Pete.
Now, maybe that was a bad example, but again, are you sending too much communication, not enough communication, the wrong message being sent, the wrong people being there? It's funny, when we started at Disney University back in the late 90s, I remember the big thing was the number one problem in organizations is communication issues. And here we are. How many years later are we still saying, if people just learn to communicate? And so it's such a broad topic. Is that the style of communication, the process of communication, how much is on the listener?
Right.
Are they paying attention? Are they going to the documents to read them? And no, I mean, I'm sure I have a bad habit of oversharing. My team hates it. They hate that because there's a nice to know and a need to know basis from a management point of view. And I live with my employees being nice to know. I'm like, you don't need to know this. I'm going to forward it anyways. You don't need to know this. And so they're like, enough with the emails, because I send stuff to them that they don't need to know. But at least I'll never be accused of, hopefully, being a poor communicator. What's the communication challenges where you are in your work?
Internal and external communications are a big part of what I do in my day job.
Right.
And it's the thing we struggle with is, number one, getting our top leadership to communicate effectively and consistently. And it's not that they don't want to, or let's say it's, they're busy running a company. And so that's kind of where my job comes in. And I wind up, kind of helping them with the message a lot. But also, the fact, and everyone will relate to this, I think, is that when you do communicate, people don't read the emails, or people don't get the message. So you said earlier, how much of that is on the listener, and so that's it. You're right. We've been kind of dealing with this challenge since you and I started our careers back in the '90s, and here we are, and still trying to get the right message to the right people at the right time.
And we have so many more tools and technology now. I remember, and those of you who worked at Disney or are Disney fans, there was a time when you were cool at Disney if you had a pager, all right, and it had a number you could call back. Then my buddy Brian figured out a way to get the where they called digital pagers, where they flipped open and you could this is before cell phones, you could type on them. Yeah. So everybody wanted a digital pager that flipped so that you could text right back. And that helped with communication. Then we got cell phones, and then we got Slack, and then we got Zoom, and then we have WhatsApp and texting. And we have all these ways to share, and people are still saying, I'm not getting the message.
Yeah, before people were texting on their phones, we had these little buttony pagers. And
buttony pager, that's what it was, buttony pager.
Well, that's just what we colloquially called it.
Right.
So Pete and I could be sitting in a meeting and literally, like texting to each other, and we're sitting right next to each other, but you don't want to be like, we're
right. Deb Collins remembers it.
Yeah.
Deb, you were big. If you had a two-way pager, yeah, and you were always the moron who didn't have one, who just had someone was just beeping you, and you're like, I can't respond unless I go use a phone because I don't have a cell phone yet because they're not invented. So, yeah, the good old days. All right. Keep on going. So yeah, that's something we're going to have to work on. Two more that he had here. Let's see what we got. Number 6 is, and this is a good one for me. I love this one. Commanding instead of influencing. Leaders must remind themselves that leadership is not dictating, commanding, or imposing. It's being of service to others, service to your employees, service to your customers, and influencing them, empowering them to achieve their goals. Now, being in local government, Brian, I do a lot of work with police and fire. It's a very command hierarchical structure. And so coaching and developing them, they live kind of like the military. They live in a world of do it because I said so. And they're taught or trained that that's okay. Why do you do it? You don't question all that kind of stuff. That and sometimes you need that in a paramilitary structure. But if you're not in that world, the idea of just telling somebody and commanding and dictating versus influence. If you've never read any of Robert Cialdini's work on influence, 50 Ways to Say Yes, The Power of Persuasion, he's got these 6 styles of influence. It's very helpful. It'll help you as a leader influence people, because just telling them to do it because you said so doesn't always work with your kids either.
Goes back to that Dwight D. Eisenhower quote, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but when we do leadership,
one of our about greatest vice presidents ever. Yeah, go.
He was a military general, commander of the all of the D-Day forces and then later on the president. And he says, the difference in leadership and management is leadership is about influence, getting somebody else to do something that you want done, but because they want to do it, and convincing them that they're on board. They want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kathleen makes a good point there as well. She says for safety isn't sometimes commanding okay. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt. Again, we're not going to have a discussion about the best place to park the fire truck. We're not going to have a discussion about I'm not going to try to influence you to try to do it my way. When it comes to safety and when it comes to protocols, things like that, I mean, absolutely. I mean, Kathleen's taken us back to Disney, where our 4 quality standards were safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency in that order. Safety is first, then courtesy. So we would always talk about how is it okay to yell at a guest or yell in the theme park? Absolutely. If there's a guest at Disney holding their child up, standing on a rail that's going to fall down 100 feet and the child could die, can we yell, sir, sir? We started yelling at them and saying, you can't do that. You can't do that. Oh, that's not very Disney of you. That's not very the way. Well, you know what? Safety is first. Then we'll get to courtesy, a little bit later. So, yeah, excellent point. All right, last one that he talks about here, which is lacking integrity in not just lacking integrity in general, Brian. He's lacking integrity in decision making. When questionable decisions for financial gain or personal benefit are made, employees know. And if they know, you've already lost the battle for respect. But if you lead by example and show integrity in your decision-making, it says a lot about you, the person. So think about how many decisions we make on a daily basis, Bri. Should I take home that ream of paper that's just sitting there? Should I give this person something that I'm not giving this person? So we're always making decisions. Did we talk on this show last week or a couple weeks ago about the Philadelphia Eagles and the gentleman that the head coach for the Eagles during the last
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Remember, he started to tank during the game. He took out all the good players, put in the bad players so he could get a higher draft pick. And we talked about that as far as that kind of. And again, is that an integrity decision? I don't know. He may have said that it is because it appeases the fans, but I mean, when you make decisions that lack integrity, people know or they'll find out, and you'll lose it. So. Those, my friend, are the 7 signs to instantly identify someone with a bad leadership style. And Brian, I know you personally, buddy, and I know that you don't do any of those.
What? Oh, good.
Yeah. You do number 8, but we don't have time to get to number 8 today. I think you know what time it is. What time is it?
Game time.
What time is it?
Oh, game time.
Under.
Who wants to play along?
If it's your first time with Leadership and Laughs with Pete and Brian, this is the only part most people tune in for. They just sit through the other crap. But this is the most important part. This is over and under. It is the world famous, most popular leadership statistics game show that's offered on a live stream.
That's right.
Number one, Brian.
I mean, come on. And everybody loves it. You've been waiting to play it. Hopefully we got some folks watching who are ready to play a little over under. So if you're just joining us for the first time, here's how it's going to work.
Your wife is pleased.
I'll be presenting Pete with a few interesting and timely leadership statistics, and he's going to have to decide if the actual number is over or under the number I give him. And we want you to play along, so feel free to chat in your answers as we try to guess over and under.
And the goal is, Brian, to get all 3. If you get all 3, you will get a complimentary logoed Leadership and Laughs strobe light. Just like the one behind me, it's got our logo on it. It goes in your room. You get 3 out of 3. We ship that off right away to your work or home location to remind you of how much light you bring into the world.
I'm being told there's no money in the budget for that.
And never mind, we will not be doing that. All right.
So today on Leadership and Laughs, we will be taking a deep dive into one of my favorite subjects, which is customer service.
Outstanding.
So the Northridge Group recently released its 6th annual State of Customer Service Experience Report. So this one, I'll tell you up front, this one was for 2020, which means it factors in all kinds of data related to the COVID-19 pandemic and how customers and business leaders are navigating those waters.
Okay, now is this the Southridge group or the Northridge group?
This is the Northridge group.
Okay, I need it. Okay,
is there a Southridge group? Are they?
They do different surveys, so you know.
This is the Northridge group. So they actually surveyed over 1,200 American consumers and business leaders at large companies, and so they said that by surveying both consumers and business leaders at the same time, it allowed them to identify critical gaps between customers' expectations and companies' ability to deliver on customer service.
Okay.
So, let's get into the numbers. Everybody ready?
We're ready.
Here we go. Pete, during the COVID-19 pandemic, what percentage of customers said that they have increased their online shopping or tried it for the very first time? Increased their online shopping or tried it for the very first time. Over or under 65%?
I had 60% in my head, which is awesome. And as I mentioned earlier to you, buddy, again, you do leading off with Brian. They're fun stories. You know, I do a nice little thing, fun stories. Here comes Todd. Oh, it's time for the game. Roll call. I'm here. Yeah, thanks. So, Sherry says over. So I'm going to agree with Sherry, I think. Because you put two things together here. You said how many have increased their shopping or tried for the first time. I think the amount of people who have tried online shopping who would never try. Think of all the things we've tried during this pandemic that we thought would never work. You know, we can't do it this way, whatever. And so I would think it'd be in the 70s perhaps. So let's see, you know, Sherry said over, Madison says over. Hey, there's my buddy Al, who's enjoying retirement. He says over. One of my fine firefighting friends, Scott, is over. Terry's over. Our good friend Erica gave us this. Over.
She's also side texting me, by the way, about the Butney pagers.
She's Butney paging you. How come she never got one? She was an intern. You don't get a Butney pager.
No, but she remembers the Butney pager.
When she got promoted. And then Deb's saying over. If you're trying to stump us, you haven't stumped any of us. Give it to us, baby.
All right. So it's interesting that you said you started to say the number of people who never did online.
Never did it all.
And now have done it for the first time. What would you put that at?
I would say at least 30%.
You're high there. But you are correct, and so is everyone else. It's over. It's so 68% collectively of customers said that they have either increased their online shopping or tried it for the first time. I will tell you that those numbers break down. 60% said that they have increased their online shopping. 8% said they tried it for the very first time.
I saw something somebody posted on LinkedIn today about why do we need grocery stores. And there was this huge debate on LinkedIn, people today back and forth saying there's no reason for grocery, the amount of space, the amount of inventory. There's going to be a day when you're going to order it online, you're going to pull up to a small little place, they're going to put it in your car, you're going to drive away. And yet a lot of other people were saying, but I like the grocery store experience. I like to go up and find things and put them in my thing. And other folks were saying, I don't know what I want until I get there. Like some people are like me who plan your meals and go get that. And others are ENFPs who who go to the grocery store and say, what can I make? What's here? And so this whole idea of shopping online over the next 5-10 years, I hope we're studying it and watching it. I wonder about what our kids and I mean, we've already gotten to the point, Brian, where I tell people about Aladdin's Castle and arcades in the mall and and my kids are like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, yeah, and you put your quarters up. You put your quarters up so you get the next game. And that's how you bonded as a society at the mall arcade. And you know, if we do away with all retail and everything and go totally online, where will we get our social our social from. So
it's interesting for two reasons. Number one, what you just brought up is going to go to our second question.
as always,
as you do a lot. I don't know if you noticed me over here giggling because I don't share this stuff with Pete ahead of time.
right? But I don't know what he's talking about.
Your reasoning kind of goes right into that next question. But when you talk about online shopping at a grocery store, I do a fair amount of online. But you're right. I'm an ENFP, and I like to go to the grocery store. Here's what happens a lot of times, even if you're using something like, I don't know, Instacart or Whole Foods, Amazon. If you order avocados or apples or something like that, I want to be there to pick it up and
yes,
I want to evaluate it myself. I don't want somebody just grabbing the one with all the brown spots on it.
We are currently members of HelloFresh, hashtag not a sponsor. And the only challenge we ever have with them, we love all their stuff, but every now and then we'll get, because they'll send you 1 lemon or 2 sweet potatoes or something like that. And you're like, I could have picked out a couple better than that. Because you're right. You really want to get what you want. So
7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 if you do the math. Yep, Deb says she agrees. Like to pick your own. 7 out of 10 are doing more online shopping or have tried it the first time. No real surprise there. The pandemic has kind of lent itself to that. Interestingly, though, the same number, 68%, said that they plan to shop online at the same rate or more after the pandemic is over. So it seems like COVID has forever altered customer behavior, and that means businesses now have a pretty significant opportunity to expand their digital offerings and improve on and deliver a better online customer service experience.
And like you said, I mean, the focus of your questions are customer service. If I'm just going to Shipt or Instacart and I'm just picking what I want and someone's dropping it off and it's all there, how do you even have a good or bad I guess maybe timeliness or whatever? Whereas I meet somebody in my Publix, hashtag not a sponsor, and I can't find something and they walk me to the item and they request, and you get a whole customer experience. Again, I guess that's going to be that, are we looking for customer service or are we looking for a customer experience? And how is that going to affect everything from retail to groceries to we're already seeing it in the way that we buy cars. I would never, I shouldn't say I would never, I would be surprised if I ever went to hashtag Carvana, not a sponsor, and looked at a car, bought it, had it sent here, dropped it off, and I just drove it. But that's happening. It's happening right now. People.
My wife and I bought a car back in May, and I never went to a dealership. Somebody brought it to us.
Yep.
We test drove it with masks on, and the salesperson sat in the back, and then we came back and thought about it some more and did our online research, and then they showed back up with it with the papers to sign.
Yeah,
it was great.
See, so again, convenience versus experience is going to be interesting. All right, keep us going. Deuce, dose. Drop a big deuce on me right here.
Oh, it's not that kind of show. Okay, what percent of Peaches teased this? What business leaders now say that they believe their customers would try and use self-service digital apps, just like the ones we were talking about, grocery delivery apps, online banking apps, etc., during the pandemic? So this is asking business leaders, do you believe that your customers would try and use self-service digital apps during the pandemic versus the old style of online shopping? Over or under 63%.
And this was specifically asked to the business leaders. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, this one's going to be tough because
percent of business leaders that say that they believe their customers would try and use apps during the
I'm going to start off with over, because here's how I'm thinking. I think that we're all into ourselves. And we as business leaders have created the best app. and the best product. And as long as we put it out there, they're going to use it. And this is going to be easier than coming, easier than the web. Let's make an app. Let's make an app. Let's make an app. So I'll bet you all of our people will use it. So because of their naivety, I'm going to say it's higher, but I wouldn't be surprised if people who actually used it is kind of lower. Now KP is interesting. She says 90, so she thinks over as well. Other members of my family are going under. Ava, you're playing along tonight. Atta girl. We're going to get you on live. I think she's our youngest viewer. She's I think she's in middle school, I think. So that's exciting. She says over. Deb says over, but the older consumers may not be adapting so quickly. Yeah. I think the business leaders think people want it. I'm just not sure if people are doing it. Al's going with the under. Scott's going with the under. Anthony St. Pete checking in. What's up, my friend? Trying is the opposite world. How many of them are going to try it? So he's going with the over as well. Boy, this one you got some of us, Brian. Our good buddy Joseph up in the Northeast says under. Erica says under. Deb says over. Woo. We're about to eliminate some folks. What do you got?
Pete, I don't know if you've ever been more on the button. It's over. It's way over. It's 81%, not quite as high as KP said. And I chose 63% as the line because that's actually the percentage of customers who said they actually do use those apps.
Okay.
So you're exactly right. Leaders seem to have a little bit of an inflated opinion of their own offerings, and customers say they use them. 63% is not nothing, but 81% of leaders say that they think their customers are using those apps when it's really 63. But it's like that number's growing. So customers want to use the tech to help themselves. In fact, the same report said that 77% of customers said that they'll continue to favor these self-service tools and post-pandemic. So
okay,
it's for us to make sure that whatever we have in relation to the technology of customer service, it's important that those apps are easy to use and provide effective customer service for whatever it is you do.
And maybe I'm going into your next question with this, but you hit the nail on the head there. And I'd like to ask all of our listeners or our watchers who are watching the live stream right now, go into the comments. If there is an app of a company that you use that you love, let us know what that is, because here's my issue. There's a couple of pizza delivery places in town that I like to use, and I've always ordered on the web. Okay. Well, first it was the phone, then it was the web, then they created an app. Use the app. The app was trash. I mean, I couldn't do this. I had to log in first. I couldn't do. And so all of a sudden now I'm not wanting to order pizza from this place that I love because the other company has a better app. So I think part of that is you can have a real bad customer service experience if your app is not created user-friendly, if it's not awesome. Deb Collins says it's got to be simple and easy to use. And sometimes in the rush to market to kind of get these out there, you really have to have them out there. Masson says DoorDash has a really easy to use app. I love that. KP's got a couple. Team Snap. I don't know what that is, but it inspires me. I think Southwest Airlines has a pretty good, easy to use app. My wife goes to the Pants Store. There's actually a shop in Alabama called the Pants Store. Has a lot of cool stuff in it, and they've got an app that she loves. Kathleen likes United as well. So I think you hit it. If the leaders 80-something% want there to be people want apps, you'd better make it user friendly. Otherwise, people are going to think bad about you. So, all right, big finish. What do you got for the last one?
All right. So you mentioned that now it's apps. It used to be online, and then before that it was phone calls, right?
Right.
Yep. Erica says Geico, Southwest. I'll throw in Chick-fil-A. We have a Chick-fil-A.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
App. It's
absolutely
too easy to use.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about good old-fashioned phone calls? When we talk about customer service in the middle of a pandemic, they can't walk into your location. They're going to call you on the phone, right? So what percentage of customers increased their use of phone calls as a primary channel for customer service inquiries during the pandemic.
I dislike the premise of your statement because you've used the word primary in there, which is going to tweak my answer. But say it again so I can hear it.
I'm all about tweaking your answer, Pete. It is that kind of show. Okay. What percentage of customers increased their use of phone calls as a primary channel for service inquiries during the COVID-19 pandemic? Over or under 15%?
Oh, criminy. I was going to go low. Listen, unless you, and again,
actually using the phone more during the pandemic than they did before.
I want to give a big shout out. Is it Geico? Hashtag not a sponsor. Who's doing the ads now with the guy who's trying to unparent? You are not your parents.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I don't know.
Rick. Doctor. Do you know what I'm talking about? Dr. Rick. He does these seminars on how to not become your parents. And
become your parents.
He said, if you printed out directions to come here today, that's wrong. But anyhow, that's the audience, I think, that still uses phones. And the phone will be my third choice, Brian, even just for an inquiry. I'll look to the app. I'll go to the website. I'll do something. And then if I can, I'll use the phone. So I'm going to go under. It's crazy, but I'm going to go under. Let's see. Sherry says over. Ava says over. Terry says it's because you put that at 15%. People can easily make a call from home, and more people are home to take a call. So, yes, I'm buying the logic. Over. Madison is mocking the Geico commercial. You have too many pillows. No one can sit. Okay. All right. Most people are going, I'm on an island. I'm on an island going under. Let's go.
All right. There's no bell for you, Pete. However, I'm going to give the bells to all the overs, including Sherry, who hit the nail on the head. People could easily make a call from home, and there are more people at home to actually take a call. So it's over 15%. In fact, it's 34%. So about a third of American consumers say that they are using the phone more often now for customer service than they did before COVID. And I wonder if it's not a little bit aligned to what you said, where people our parents or grandparents' age might have just driven over to the telephone company to talk to somebody in the past. Now at least they're going to call. Yeah. But it's a little bit of a cheaty type question, because the truth is customer service contacts that aren't face-to-face are up across the board. So this one's 34% is up by phone. 37% said they've increased their email as the primary contact. And 34% said, 30% said that they're using the online chat, more. But it is interesting to see that customer service by phone doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon.
Yeah, and I only use it for emergencies, like when I'm angry and can't get the answer I want. I love chatbots. I love live chat, and I love all that. But again, my wife also works in healthcare, having to get a lot of people signed up for vaccines and things like that. Phones are still the answer. And especially here in Alabama, there's a lot of areas that don't have broadband internet. I just assume, that everybody's got a computer and a laptop. So it's good to know that, phones, phone and phone customer service are still out there.
I'll tell you one quick thing. My smoking hot wife, Terry, the beautiful and talented Terry Vaghi.
Well aware.
She is twice now in the past couple of months has had a customer service issue where she called the number and they tell we're taking the calls in order they're received and you're on hold for a certain amount of time, and then she'll pull up the online chat while on hold and kind of race them against each other. And
which one wins?
So Terry texted in, but I think the online chat.
Online. may do that.
Both
Yeah.
times.
But to have multiple options, it's great. Think about the training you have to do, though. You got to train all of your customer service reps to do that. Hey, if you got 3 out of 3, I want you to go to your chat and just put 3/3, or you can say 3 up, or you can say third down for what, or whatever. Just let everybody know that you're awesome. This is something that you're going to hang your hat on for the rest of probably the week, maybe the rest of your life. So absolutely. So if you got 3 for 3, put it in there. She says the chat seemed to win out most often. Hey, those were good tonight, buddy. Those were really good. Well, hang on, everybody. We got one more segment. Here it comes. It's the Daily Disney, or according to those photos, when Pete and Brian had hair.
Yeah.
So we need to update our photos. So, all right, everybody, this is called the Daily Disney. We like to spend just a couple minutes. We only got a couple minutes left tonight, sharing a little bit. Brian and I both worked at Disney, total of over 25, 30 years. We know Disney's not perfect, but we love them as a company. We learned a lot from them, from leadership and management skills, and we always share something that we learned about Disney. Today, I'm going to pimp, Brian, somebody else's book, and here's why. Every Christmas, Sherry buys me a business book to read.
Yes.
And in mid-December, I took a book off my shelf at work that I hadn't read in years, and I started reading it, and I got so into it, and I told her, don't buy me a book. I'm reading this one right now, and I will put up the picture of the book I'm talking about, which is Storming the Magic Kingdom, Wall Street, the Raiders, and the Battle for Disney. Now, at a time, Brian, way before Amazon, you couldn't find this book anywhere. It was sort of unpublished. It wasn't being reprinted. They were hard to get. Now that they're on Amazon, you can get it. It was written back in 1987 by a gentleman named John Taylor. Did you ever see a movie with Steve Carell called The Big Short?
No, I never saw The Big Short. I thought you were at the gate.
No, you would love The Big Short. It's all about how these Wall Street bankers tried to short real estate during the housing bubble. Again, hashtag not a sponsor, but if you're looking for a great, interesting, well-acted movie about the housing crisis and what happened back in 2006, 2007, The Big Short. And we're kind of seeing that right now. Have you been following GameStop and how GameStop, the retailer that sells all these video games, they lost something like $375 million last year, but their stock is rising so fast because everybody's shorting it right now, trying to get in and make money off it. Here's what I'm saying. I'm getting way off track. But if you love the Disney company and you love history and you want to go back and read about what happened between 1984 and 1987, when the Disney company was kind of going downhill, and we just opened Epcot in 82, and we're really in the weeds, and we don't know what we're doing, and should we make Splash? Well, Daryl Hannah's boobs might be showing in Splash. That's a PG movie, and Walt Disney wouldn't like that, and there's all this stuff. Well, during that time, people were buying up Disney stock because it was valued at the time at like $60. So everybody knew that it was this behemoth. And so this is the story about Roy O. Disney, about Stanley Gold, about the Bass Brothers, and it tells the story about how they literally almost bought the entire Disney company, and they were going to sell off. The theme parks will sell them to Six Flags. The hotels will sell them to Marriott. The golf course will sell them to somebody else. We'll break up the company, make $1 million. And it was really, really close to happening. From a leadership perspective, a lot of lessons in this book about greed and wealth, but also about poor management, poor leadership, tough decisions, family infighting, because you had the Walt side of the family and the Roy side of the family. And a lot of times they weren't getting along very well. And, it's really interesting. So I just wanted to share with you today. It doesn't talk a whole lot to do with our time at Disney, but as I just finished it last week and I read it and I thought this would make a great movie. First of all, you heard it here first. It'd make a great movie. But if you like the idea of big business and learning about how Wall Street works and how people are buying up companies and how we almost lost the Disney company, that's the name of the book. But did you ever read it?
Yes, I think we read it probably at the same time the first time. It's been a while though. I need to I need to find my copy.
So good. So good. So we'll sort of wrap up the show on that note. We'll sort of say that that's kind of a good place to end it. Let's see. Did that work? Can you hear the music?
Yeah. No.
Can you still hear the music? Can you hear it now? How about now?
Yes.
Yeah. So listen
along and listen to us today, and we just want to make sure that it goes off and get a really good week until we see you again, and go out there and be kind. Find a way to put kindness into the world, and we'll all be a little better for it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great if a leadership tip today was just be nice to each other? Just don't be an idiot. Just be nice to each other.
It's not that hard.
So, everybody on Terry got 3 for 3 today. Deb Collins got 3 for 3 on over under. You got some winners today. Todd Meiniger, why'd you even 0 for 3?
No.
Thanks for even showing up, baby. So we appreciate everybody watching and listening. The best hour of your week. Thanks. We'll see you again next Wednesday. For Brian, I'm Pete. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.